Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the next Foreman community demo. 9th of March, already into the third month of the year. I have no idea where the time is going. It's crazy. But we're here again to give you a great update on what's going on in the Foreman community. As always, you can be involved in the show. You can hit us up on IRC, #theforeman on Freenode, or you can join in on the YouTube Live, which I'll be keeping an eye on. And as is now the custom, I'll be moving the metrics to the end of the demo because it's fairly dull, but I will give you a short update on what we're going to see. So firstly, the main news you may want to hear, 1.14.2 has now been released. It's a nice bug fix release, so if you're on the 1.14 stable release series, get yourself updated if you haven't already. Today we'll be looking at some Catella updates. We'll be looking at some updates from the Foreman maintain system that was shown by Ivan in the last demo. Some new stuff on the notifications UI from OHAD, and I've got a plugin that I hoped to show last time, but we ran out of time, so I'm going to do it this time on looking at catalog diffs in Foreman. So, without further ado, I'm going to get rolling. But before I do that, a quick note on the community survey. That's now closed. We got over 200 responses. Thank you to everyone who submitted responses to that survey. It's a fantastic response. I'll be going through the analysis in the next week or two. So you can expect a blog post on that. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about it on the next demo. And we did promise prizes, so I'm just making sure that we get that sorted. And then I'll be in touch. I'll probably do the draw live in some way so that you can see I'm not cheating. And then we'll get in touch with the winners and sort that out. So again, thank you to everyone for your responses on the community survey. It's really, really useful information. So sadly, our first speaker can't be with us today. There's a bug in his demo, so we're going to move straight on to our second one. So Justin, if you're there, talk to us about sync.
Alrighty. So for the past couple of years or so, you sync a repository using Catella and Pulp. Everything would come down nicely. However, if there was any sort of file system corruption, if you lost any files, there really was no way to recover. And this was just sort of a decision in Pulp on how they wanted to handle things. And thankfully, this is no longer the case. And Pulp has exposed some ways for us to actually trigger a verify and a couple other options. So there's this new option under the repository details for advanced sync. And on this page, you get 3 different options. You get the normal optimized sync, and this is basically the fastest sync, but does the least amount of work it needs to do. If there are no changes detected on the upstream Yum repository, it will do nothing. The complete sync will essentially resync the repository even if it thinks there are no changes. So this is the case where I know you don't have what you need, but you're not actually syncing. You can now force the complete sync. This takes a bit longer than the optimized sync. And then finally, the third option is the validate content. And this will actually perform a sync, verify the checksums of every RPM in that repository locally. And if any of them are wrong, it will re-download those RPMs. And obviously, this one will take the longest amount of time. And that is really it. These behave pretty much exactly like a normal sync. It just takes you to the task page where you can watch the progress go by. And that's it.
Nice and quick. Thank you very much. I don't have any questions for you, probably because the stream hasn't caught up yet. It was that quick. Oh, but we do have one live.
Does it also explore, or are there plans to expose this also for syncing the capsule? Because I think the capsules also can have these issues.
Not yet, but I think that's definitely the a next step for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much, Justin. Hang around. I'll keep an eye out for incoming questions for you. In the meantime, we'll move on to our next speaker. So Tom McKay has some more updates for us on containers. So what have you got for us, Tom?
So Justin, a couple of years ago, wrote a repository discovery tool for Yum repos. It's this shiny little button right here, repo discovery. And over the past couple of months, I've wanted to hook in Docker registry discovery. So I did that. The UI has changed a little bit. Just like before, you could do Yum repositories, but now you have the choice of doing.
Tom, I'm only seeing the Hangout on your video stream at the moment rather than any browser you might be showing. Maybe you want to just kill screen share and start it again just in case it's gone weird.
Let me try.
I figure I can hear you clicking and you're probably trying to show something that no one else is seeing.
How about now?
Give it a sec. I'm still seeing your profile at the moment. No, it's not happy. Something weird. Oh, wait, no, there it goes. Yeah, we got it now.
You good?
Yeah, we got it now. Must be a delay. Okay, sorry about that.
So let me just step back real quick. This is the products page. As I was saying, Justin added a repo discovery a couple of years ago. And I've added Docker discovery to it. So here's fairly straightforward, very similar to the Yum repos. You just put in a URL or a registry. It could have the port. This one is Red Hat's container catalog. Mash on the discover button. And wonder why it didn't work. Try it again. Better. Don't know what went wrong there. So these are all the images available at this registry. You can see there's a good number of them. I am looking for something specific. I'm looking for the registry console. I could select a number of them here. Let me just backspace a little bit. Let's do a couple of these. Actually, I already have synced down, but we'll keep them there for an example. Okay, so this brings me over to the create repositories page. Just like previously with Yum repos, I can choose an existing product, or I can choose to create a new product right in line. I'm going to choose to use an existing one. I have a product already. I've named Red Hat Container Catalog. These are the repo options for Docker repos, for container repositories. Verify SSL or not. If the upstream registry has a username, you can put that in here. And then these are the repositories that are going to be created. You can see they get filled in with the name and label. Default, you can change if you want. And the create repositories, it goes through one by one. This is actually done in the client, in the browser, not via a bulk task on the server. That's a change that may or may not come depending on priorities. But you can see it goes through, in this case, 2 of them failed. Label's already been taken for this product, the name's already been taken for this product. That's because I've already created these in my product. And so I could go in here and change the names or correct the errors and then hit create again, and they would retry. You can see the one down here, the registry console, was created successfully. And I can go take a look at it. And there it is. That is the end.
Marvelous. Thank you very much. I don't see any questions on IRC just now. Oh, wait a minute. I think Ohad's possibly got one. He's talking in IRC. Do you want to jump in, Ohad?
Yeah, I just had a couple of comments. First of all, I thought that it would be interesting to consider moving this to a wizard because you're going through multiple steps, and at some point you're actually looking only at part of the screen. So maybe that would be useful from a UI perspective. And just a small comment also about the errors. I don't think users can do anything with a label, or label is just something that is hidden.
They can in this case. We're creating the repos, so we choose the label.
Okay, because so, I'm just in the default case.
Once the repo is created, the label cannot be changed. But I can set the label at creation time. I can choose whatever I want.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tom. All right. So moving swiftly on, it's going to be Ivan who's going to tell us what's been happening in the world of Foreman maintained. You there?
Yeah. Hello.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Let's roll.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. So I will show you the updates, what's going on in the Foreman maintain tool. So since the last time when I showed you the basic code concepts and some POC for the CLI, or just if you remember, the CLI was more just debug outputs of various endpoints. So after that, we already got some nicer CLI interface. We started with two subcommands there. One of them is health, that is entry point for the health checks for the system. So let's see what options we have here. We can either list all the health checks that are available for this particular system. If you remember from last time, we have there the service discovery detection. So we only show the checks that are valid for this particular system. So I have Foreman task present. That's why I have the Foreman task there. And I have also the disk IO check, which is another thing that was added since last time by Swapnil. And that's the check for the speed of the disks that you are running. So I can also list available tags. This is useful for the health check command. So this check actually runs some checks defined, and you can either specify or which check you want to run by label. So I can say label disk IO, and it will run this check for me. And I have to screen, so it kind of scrolls down. But after it's finished, it says that the disk speed is okay for my system. When I go and increase the expectation of this check and run again, you can see now that the check actually failed because the speed of my disk is this, and I expect this value. So the reason for the disk IO check is that if you have too slow disk IO, the pulp performance can degrade pretty high, and the performance of the whole system. So that's why we want to provide better experience from the usage of this by giving you hints what you should run it on. So this is for the checks themselves, and I mentioned that you can also specify the label. So I can set run the tag. I can run the checks from some tag. So the basic is the set that you should run always or very often, such as if there are any post tasks, and you should be aware of that, and maybe to resume that if there are some other tasks might be specific for a specific use case. So that's why we have ability to have multiple tags there. So this is the check option. If we go, another command is the upgrade, which is common, but it's similar to health right now, but it's focused on upgrade. It's focused on the upgrades themselves. So here we can list what versions are actually available for this particular system. And let me just comment this thing out so that we don't have this only bar in there. So again, this looks at the versions of what I'm running right now. Don't be confused. These are the satellite numbers, but if I was using upstream, they would be the upstream version numbers. So kind of try to be friendly on where your software is coming from, and make or show the valid values for you from them. So I'm running, this is the satellite 6.1 version, so I can either upgrade to 6.1Z or 6.2. When I run upgrade check, again, it will tell me which versions I want to check the upgrade to. So I will check for running the satellite user 2 check. And again, this selects the checks that are valid for the upgrade to the next version. So right now we have the 2 checks with the tasks and the disk speed, and we are adding another ones with disabling the synchronization plans, for example, or setting up or disabling the 443 port temporarily before the upgrade actually starts. But this is going to be added the next iteration. For now, the important thing is that we have now the CLI that actually is usable and can extend. And the second part is the disk IO check actually running there. So that's it for me.
All right. We do have a question via the YouTube live chat, actually. There's a couple of people really enjoying looking at that. I'm wondering when that will be available in a stable Foreman release. Do you have any idea when that might make it into the wild?
So we are targeting, or the purpose of this tool is to be able to run against multiple versions. So we have even the packaging in progress, and we want to get the first version as soon as possible. The only thing is that in the first version, we will not have all the checks, or we'll keep adding the things as we go. So I expect during this iteration, we should actually get something into the hands of the people. There still might be, more and more checks missing, but one thing is we will add more, and we also will welcome others to add their stuff. So right now, we still have some code structure refactorings that to actually support better what we are doing right now. So it's still pretty wild in development, but it should, like the API should stabilize pretty soon. And I expect during the 2-3 weeks to really have it in the hands of people.
Cool. So short version, packaging in process, guys. Watch for that one. I assume you'll announce it on the lists when it's ready.
Yeah,
so, of course. So keep an eye on the mailing list, and you'll hear more about that in the future. So moving along, next up, we're going to have Ohad, who's going to tell us what's been happening in the land of the new notifications UI, which I have to admit I am super excited about. So, so Ohad, what have you been working on? Ohad, you there? There he is.
Hello. Hey. All right. So some of you might have seen already, we already have a new notification implementation in at least in 1.15, or it's coming in 1.15. We have this drawer where you have the ability to see notifications coming in real time and potentially take actions against. What I want to show you today is actually the first batch of notifications that we've created. I hope that this completes the infrastructure required for all of the notifications. So this should be very interesting also for plugin developers and regular Foreman core developers to actually start using the notification framework. And I'll show a couple. I'll start with a few notifications that we've implemented. These just recently got merged into core and will be available in 1.15. So I'll start with a discovery host. I have here already a discovered system. And I don't have to be on the screen, but effectively when one or more discovered systems are available and registered to Foreman, they already show up in the notification drawer. The notification drawer here will change its icon from, there will be some visual indication when there is a notification or there are no notifications. And you already have the ability to click on the details in this case, which will take you to the discovered host page. There is a little bit of logic behind this, where since we potentially can discover multiple hosts, we didn't want to create multiple discovery messages. So you effectively have at least one discovery message here, as long as there are discovered hosts, meaning that if I'll actually delete this discovered host, then hopefully the notification will also disappear. The idea behind this really is that users can see this as an actions of things they need to take care for And here you can see the discovered host is gone. And just for fun, I'll just resend the facts here, simulating a new discovered host, and notification will reappear. Now, if you have more than one host available, the notification should still persist. So this is just an easy way for you to figure out if you have discovered host in this case, without actually going to the discovered host page. All right. We also have, and I'll just simulate a few more notifications. We have another notification when the system finished provisioning. So in this case, I will just simulate a notification behind the scene, and we will see whenever a new host is provisioned. Some of you guys actually have already get an email if you configure that, but you can also see here that now you have another notification with the details, and you can again go and figure out, see the host details and so on. The same goes for when we are deleting a host. Let's say, let's see if I can safely delete something here. Hopefully I'm not deleting someone's machine. But when I delete the system, I'll also have a notification, which will also, by default, will clear whenever that will finish. It will also clear any past notification for that system. So in this case, if I had build notification for this machine, it will also remove them. So there's no, inconsistent links that you can access from this page to a page that no longer exists. And the last notification that we have is for systems that might have been imported into Foreman that don't necessarily have an owner. I'll just, again, simulate this. Let's see if I can simulate this again behind the scene. Yeah, so here I'm getting a notification for a host that we tried to notify, but where was actually no owner for that system. And in that case, I can actually go and update the host with the valid owner. This is important because notifications are actually recipient-based, very similar to emails, and only the relevant people get the notification. So in this case, when a host is built, not everyone will get that notification. Only the owner, it's a user group, will get that kind of notifications. Therefore, the owner is important. Now, for plugin developers, I just want to show at least one PR in the Foreman discovery, just that you can see how little code is involved. This will be really quick because I know we don't want to show code usually in this kind of demos, but just to give you a little bit, and we can link it in the show notes somewhere. But effectively, you just hook where you want to create a notification. Let's say this is an active record callback, various callbacks, and then you have to implement, let's say, the new discovered host notification is only about these lines. You just create it or update it and potentially set up the blueprint for the discovered, like the message and how it should be done. That's all to it. Of course, there are tests and things like that, but that's all to it. And I really encourage everyone to actually start creating notifications. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Ohad. That's really cool. And yeah, I'll be happy to link that PR in the show notes if you send that over to me. I think it's a really nice example. That looks really, really cool. Let's take a quick look. I don't see any questions just now. I'm sure I can think of some given a few minutes because there's so much we can do with this. It's going to be great. Anyway, in the meantime, we'll move on. So next up, we have John, who's going to talk to us about pulp. So, John, if you're there.
Yes. Hey.
Go for it.
Let me share my screen.
Oh, have we lost him? Seems to have. He seems to have frozen. Tricky. Is it John who's frozen or is it me? Someone else want to chime in?
He's gone, I think.
He's gone. Okay, it's not me. Good. As some of the regular viewers will know, I live on a very, very shaky internet connection, so sometimes it's me. Okay, well, while we wait for John to come back, I'll move on to the next segment, which is going to be me. So I wanted to do this last time, but unfortunately we ran out of time. So this is a plugin I wrote ahead of FOSDEM at the start of February, and it's still pretty raw, pretty alpha, but I thought I'd show it to you guys and see if you want to have a play with it. And it's about catalog diffs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move over to my slides. Catalog diffs are another way of looking at Puppet modules. So if you look at a Puppet module, it's a bunch of code, and you can do what you can test that in various ways, right? So you can do things like RSpec. You can grab a VM and test the module. You can get someone else to look at your code. You can run it with no op. You can throw it in production and see if it breaks anything, right? But what you can't do, sometimes that doesn't work well. And these tools here are particularly good if you're the author of the module. They're not great if you're a user of a module. If you put yourself in a situation of someone who has 20 modules in a Git repository, and they've got updates to apply to all of them, and they want to know if it's going to break production, then running the RSpec tests doesn't necessarily help them with that. So catalog diffs are a different way of looking at Puppet. We're not diffing the code. We're compiling the code for a machine, and then we're diffing that in two different environments. So this means you're not seeing changes in white space, you're not seeing changes in comments, not seeing changes in Puppet tags, any of that stuff. It works without test coverage because it's what actually would be applied by the Puppet agent, and it's the actual changes for that target. So if you take the situation of a major upgrade of a module, you may not care whether or not the tests pass. What you care is, has there been a major change in functionality that I don't want in my production environment, right? So catalog diffs are not particularly new. They've been around a while. There was a new tool came out last year called Octocatalog Diff by GitHub. I'll just show you the web page for that. So here it is, I think. Where is it gone? So Octocatalog Diff, GitHub/Octocatalog Diff. It's a really, really nice tool. And it's a command line tool. It's a standalone tool. You can run it from a Git repository on your laptop. It requires a lot of command line switches, which I'll show in a moment. And it basically allows you to run a Puppet compilation step for each of two environments, given some input data, and then produce a diff. And the diff looks something like this. So you have, I can see that between these two environments, an exec was added, an exec was deleted, file systems have been changed, parameters on this file system have been changed, and so on. Right? So you can see changes in your changes in what would be applied on a host. Really, really nice. Let me give you a concrete example of that. What I have on this host here is the Foreman DHCP module. So this is the Foreman/DHCP on the Forge, and we're looking at the 3.4.0 release and the 4.0.0 release. So this is a major version upgrade in the Puppet module. And if we diff the actual code, so what you can see here is I'm looking at production and development /modules DHCP, and I'm just going to pipe that through color diff. You can see, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can see it's huge. Changes in the gem file, there's a whole reasonable amount of changes in various parts of the Puppet code. It would take me a long time to go through all of that and to work out whether or not these things apply to my environment. And you multiply that by the number of modules you have to do. You do your monthly update or your weekly update on your Puppet code, and it's a lot. It's difficult. So 1 second, please. I'm just going to check something. Yeah, okay, people are just messaging me, that's fine. That's the problem when you're the presenter and also presenting, right, the host. I lose track of all the messaging. So that's what the diff looks like. But what does it look like if I compile a catalog? Well, here's a command for catalog diff. I'll just quickly run. There's a lot of options here, and you can put this into a config file, but I left them visible so that people could see what I was doing. So that's the binary, obviously. This is the name of the host we're going to compile for. Bootstrapped from is where my production code is. Bootstrapped to is where my development code is. So this is version 3.4, and this is version 4.0. We need a fact file. This is because obviously catalog compilation is influenced by the facts from the host, so we need to supply those facts. We also need some ENC data in some form. So basically, we need to know what classes to compile for. I'm not using Hiara, so I tell the system that I'm not using Hiara. And we also have to tell it where to find the Puppet binary as well, because you can actually use this to do things like a Puppet 3 to Puppet 4 migration testing. So you can specify a from binary and a to binary and compile the same catalog with two different Puppet binaries, which is quite interesting as well. And then a couple of obvious options at the end, extra detail and color. So bear in mind, this was like a 400 or 500 line diff in the code. what does it come out in the catalog? This is quite slow. Should be done any second. And there you have it, one blank line. That is the whole difference for the DHCP, for a default application of the DHCP module, upgrading from 3.4 to 4.0, a single blank line. This I am much happier with than a 400-line diff. So as a user of a module, this gives me a lot of confidence that I can just apply that update into my system and I'll be happy with it. Now, this is great as a command line tool, but you don't always want to work on the command line. And so I went away and had a bit of a think, and I want to find my browser again. Oh, there it is. I went and wrote a plugin for it. So this is my test Foreman, and you can see we've got this new Puppet diff button on the host page. We're on the same host, demo 1, and I can say I want to diff now. You can see I'm in the production environment here. I'm going to diff it against development. Oh no, I need to log back in. That's a bug. I told you this plugin was a bit raw. And my VM is very slow as well. But you get the idea. So the idea is that you come in, you check it against, you take the environment that the host is in, and you say, if I were to move this host to another environment, what would the changes be? This is being really, really slow. Oh, I bet I know what it's doing. I bet I know what it's doing. Yeah, yep. It's trying to... There we go, that's better. It was trying to do the diff as part of the page reload, which is not a good idea. Right, so let's try that again. Puppet diff, development. So we get this modal. I'm going to get rid of this modal. I'm going to do a proper UI for this plugin when I have some time, which is not at the moment. And you can see it takes a lot of time. We get the same diff. So this is fine. And it's the same idea. This works as a pair of plugins, so it's both a UI plugin for Foreman and an API plugin for the proxy, because it's obviously the proxy sits where the Puppet master is, so that has access to the octocatalog binary and also access to the fax data and the Puppet module directories and all the rest of it. So that deals with all the heavy lifting, and the data is returned to the Foreman UI for display. I'll show you a slightly more complex diff just out of interest, because we have plenty of time today. So this is my my Foreman host itself. On this one, I've added the Foreman proxy and the Foreman Puppet module. Sadly, the Foreman module seems to break octocatalog diff last time I tried it, so I haven't got a diff for that. Now this is pretty large because there's a lot of concat changes. But I can scroll down and show you some more useful ones. So it's a lot of concat changes in here. This is not massively useful. But if we come down here, it's about halfway down. Here we go. So you can see changes in Puppet Proxy SSH from userbin to opt Puppet Labs, changes in node.rb, which has got extra handling for things in there. I hacked in a mode change just so that you could see there's more than just file level changes here, and so on and so forth. So lots of diffs there. And if I go back to my slides real quickly, one thing I want to point out, a couple of caveats here if you go playing with this. Facts are not live, they come from a fact cache. This is not so bad because we're using the facts uploaded from the agent in the case of the plugin, so they're relatively live, but watch out for that one. If you're messing around with custom facts in your development environment, that possibly won't work the way you think. Watch out for things that catalogs don't get to specify, so in particular dependency stuff. So you've noticed, for example, it spotted in our initial example that there was an extra blank line in the DHCP config, but it didn't show us in the diff that it would then restart the DHCP service. That's because dependency information is handled by the agent itself. Also watch out for operations that are unsupported by providers or changes in underlying providers themselves. If you want to know more about what I mean by that, if you're messing around with custom providers, if you're changing providers under the hood, go and watch my talk. It was recorded at FOSDEM. The link is in our latest blog post, and I will put it in the show notes as well. I go into a lot more detail about what to watch out for that, but for time today, I won't go into those details just now. So it's a plugin. Watch out for the ENC data as well. That needs to be handled a little bit better in the future. So if you want to play with this, if you think it's useful, the URLs are currently on my GitHub, so Foreman Puppet Diff and Smart Proxy Puppet Diff. It's pretty raw at the moment. I need to actually fix it so it's a little bit easier to install. But if you want to get your hands dirty in the alpha, come talk to me in IRC, and I will happily help you get it set up to play with. And hopefully I can get a version out that's actually packaged in the near future. All right, so these were my slides from FOSDEM, so that's where that's coming from. So that's it for me. I'm going to just check and see if we've got any questions. So already one person on YouTube saying that they've been looking for this. So yeah, it is pretty raw at the moment there. Do be careful with it. You can cut yourself pretty badly right now, but I hope to tidy it up as soon as I have some time. I don't see any other questions regarding Puppet Diff. There is some discussion about the UI notifications, but that seems to be being handled on IRC, although if Ohad wants to relay any of that, he's welcome to do so. I'm going to try John again and see if he's back. Are you there, John?
Yes, I'm here.
All right,
let's
give it another go then, shall we?
Let me try this again. Chrome decided to crash at a very opportune time. So yeah. I made a change within Catello to not regenerate metadata within repos, within Pulp, during a content view, promote and publish if nothing has changed in the actual repo. So I'm going to kind of talk as I demo here, and I'm going to publish a content view. And now this by default now will not actually go into the library version of the repo and regenerate the metadata. And normally what happens is Pulp checks, did the revision number change? If it did not, it skips the sync completely, and then the publish task actually gets skipped as well. So it's going to skip some unnecessary steps. And let me share my terminal here. So this was the old revision number here, and you can see it did not change. And I'll go back to this. And so if you want a way to actually regenerate that metadata, you can click this checkbox here, force yum metadata regeneration, and you can publish or promote the content view version. So where this has a lot of benefit in performance increasing, or an increase in performance is when we sync content to smart proxies, it will skip a lot of steps if the content has not changed within the repo, and that's sped up smart proxy syncs quite a bit. So, switch to this. You can see the revision number has changed here, so the repo md.xml file is updated. And additional note that this is just RPMs right now, but we have the option to go in and check other types of content. But RPMs were the most beneficial change that we could do. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you very much, John. I don't see any questions for you just now, but hang around. We'll see if any turn up while I do the last segment. So as is now usually the case, I'll do a quick update on the community metrics this month, or this 3-week period, I guess. It's fairly quiet at the moment. I don't quite know why. We're in a bit of a, I don't know if we're in a bit of a lull, or if actually it's truer to say that we had a really high activity spike last time. I think that's probably more true, and we're just kind of returning to normal levels. But certainly downloads are a little bit down, although not a lot down. Plugins are absolutely unaltered in terms of ordering and rough numbers. It's all very similar to last time. Same with the compute resource metrics. They're all in the same order, same popularity. So very, very little of interest to say there. Redmine, again, sticking with the same story, a little bit quieter, slightly less bugs open, slightly less bugs closed, but otherwise, stuff is still going on. GitHub, same story. Quite a significant drop in number of PRs open and closed, but actually, again, we had a very significant spike upwards last month, so this is just dropping back down to more sort of typical levels. I don't know why we were so active in mid-February, but we were, so there you go. Finally, I've finally managed to repair the mailing list statistics that we used to do in around about August. It broke in about August, and I never got around to fixing it. And I finally have done that now. So once again, I can start getting data from the mailing list. And the story is that it hasn't really changed. In terms of the community lift, sorry about the drilling in the background, I am actually living in a building site at the moment. So it's a similar kind of story. If we look at bugs, we know that the community lifts about a third of the bugs that are reported by people who are other than Red Hat, basically. And the same kind of happens on the mailing list. So in this case, what we're looking at in that second table there is how many emails were where the first reply was from either a Red Hat or a non-Red Hatter, basically, or engineering versus other type of person. So it's a similar kind of percentage, unsurprising. One thing I'm a little concerned about is the number of completely unanswered emails. That is to say, an email that never gets a single reply does seem to be creeping up over time at the moment. And I'm as much to blame as anyone for this. I have not been very active on the mailing list in the last month or two, what with all the organization going on for things. But for those who do spend their time on the mailing list and help out there, thank you so much for your efforts on that. It really helps to have a welcoming community. I want to find out how we can make that better. So if people have thoughts on that, please do get in touch with me. But that's all, I think. I will take a last check around for questions. Or if anybody who's on the Hangout wants to jump in with anything, then now is the time. All right, in that case, I don't see any more questions, so that just leaves me to thank all of the presenters today very much for your time. Thank you all for watching the demo. We'll see you next time in another 3 weeks. Watch the channel, as always, for other things like case studies and deep dives. There was a deep dive into React, React, but also Flux and Redux last week, which was excellent. So go catch that if you didn't see it. You can follow us on YouTube for all of that kind of thing. You can follow us on Twitter for more general stuff. You can find us on IRC if you want to come talk to us. Thank you very much for watching, and do take care.